Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Just Joe King podcast. I'm one half of this thing, King,
And I'm Joe.
and we are back with another topic here that Joe and I, I don't know if we're going to see eye to eye. I don't know if we're going to agree, but we're looking at what I think is the beginning of this country going, well, how is it? Hell in a handbasket? I don't know that old
Nah,
country saying.
that's the phrase.
Something like that. And things are baffling to me. So I wanted to bring up something here and see what y'all have to say about it. And that is ICE, baby. What's going on with ICE? Immigrations, customs, and enforcement here in the US. I think that we're starting to see a lot of things in the news that are portraying a whole federal agency. Are they a no, they're a what is ICE?
They're part of DHS
So ICE is a part of DHS, which is Homeland
security.
Security.
Yeah.
And what's their mission?
To enforce customs, you know, their job is to enforce border customs, basically anything and everything about the import and export of goods and people. Essentially, at least that's how I understand it.
You know what? Hey, no, that's fair. So I just brought up some notes here. Shout out to my producer in the background. ICE was formed in 2003 in response to the 9/11 attacks here in the US. They are the largest investigative arm of the Department of Homeland Security. Shout out to DHS. It's essentially combined the criminal investigative functions of the old Customs Service and what used to be called the Immigration and Naturalization Service,
That's
INS.
right,
I do
INS.
remember
I
INS.
remember
Yeah.
INS, and that's where I can understand the form and function of INS. But ICE for me had just like this broader, which the Patriot Act and post 9/11 and all of that kind of expanded a lot of these things to a place where most people don't know or understand. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot.
It is. Now, it says that their official mission statement is this: ICE's stated purpose is to protect national security and public safety by enforcing federal laws governing border control, customs, trade, and immigration. It is divided into two primary directorates: Homeland Security Investigations, which focuses on cross border crimes, including human trafficking, drug smuggling,
Mhm.
cyber crime, and intellectual property theft. And the second part is enforcement and removal operations, um, ERO, which focuses on the interior enforcement of
Mhm.
immigration laws, which involves identifying, detaining, and removing non-citizens. And I think that that's going to be one of the key things that we're going to highlight today as we're talking about the enforcement of what they're doing, and if we just agree with how they're going about doing it. So let's get started, man. Let's tap in. At the beginning of 2026, we've been seeing an unprecedented surge of ICE activity across the US. And there's a actual operation out there for people that don't know. It's called Operation Metro Surge, in which our federal government scaled up and hired roughly 12,000 new agents and are utilizing over 20,000 National Guard troops to assist in the identifying, detaining, and removing of non-US citizens across several big metro areas and metro cities.
So
Recently in the news, I'm
yeah,
sorry, go
I was
ahead.
going to say so. One of the things that's a problem is the detaining word, the
Yes.
usage of the word detaining. It's not detaining, it's apprehension. See, they changed the word usage in media so that
Okay.
you feel like it's not something criminal. So when
Mm.
you think about it, you think they're simply detaining normal, not normal, law abiding citizens. They're apprehending law breaking non citizens. Almost every single one where there's been a scenario or a situation around, they have proof and evidence of criminal activity.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
not detaining, it's apprehension. the media wants you to think about it in a way that's more humanizing to the criminal element and less, because you got to admit, in the last decade or two, there's been this softening of what it means to be a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
More online and more through media, you start to see more of these people, or just Americans in general, kind of feeling more for the criminal element.
Sympathizing, yes.
And the media loves to use word usage that kind of brings your mind to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And first and foremost, the constant usage of, oh, they were wonderful people and they've never done anything wrong, and these photos of them at a more innocent age. You know, it's like, we're not talking about when they're teenagers or children. We're talking about adults breaking laws. It's not the same.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get back to it. Let's get
now. No, actually, shit. Let's stay here.
Yeah,
right there. Apprehension and detaining. I don't think nobody in this room, which is me and you and the people watching right now, have an issue with apprehending bad guys.
Correct.
What people do have an issue with is when you're at airports and you don't have that actionable intel that you know this is a guy that has overstayed his visa, or a gal that has overstayed their visa, and also is wanted in crimes for stabbing and assaulting somebody 6 months ago that we just haven't found. I don't think people have an issue with those type of operations. What people do have an issue is when you're at airports and you're looking at people through their window and you're like, that MFer looks like they're Somalian. Let me go and question their background and demand their identification to ensure that they're a U.S. citizen. I think that's where people have a problem.
Well, hold on, but you got to ask the question. The real question is that happening?
Yes.
Is that, hold on, but is that happening? But is that happening in mass? Or was it one person in a couple of, like, one or two people in a couple of isolated incidents that maybe overreacted, or maybe had some actionable intel? Because we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. The law enforcement agencies cannot tell you everything, not initially, especially if there's an investigation. Now, there are FOIA acts for a reason. They can request that information after the fact, when the information can be released, the Freedom of Information Act. The news and the people with their cell phones have no context for what's happening. And they can tell you this person was approached for no reason because they don't understand what's going on. And then that post goes online, it goes viral because people already feel some kind of way. There's no proof or evidence that this person wasn't a criminal. And of course, they're going to say, I'm not a criminal. I'm not a criminal. I'm just here. Now, that isn't to preclude that it could be an innocent person being profiled. That's not to take away from the potential. The problem is when it's such a large scale problem, there's going to be onesies and twosies. They're going to be collateral. You know what I mean? So the question is this actually really happening in mass, or is this just being portrayed that way, and because we feel that way, we're just agreeing with it, taking it at face value?
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you a question because I don't want to put words in your mouth. In the example that I gave, that was a scenario that had occurred, that somebody filmed themselves while they were an airport driver at an airport. So you're saying that regardless of what you were doing at the time, ICE was at that airport for a reason.
Yes.
So the fact that they were there for a reason, does that give them justification?
But do you know what their reason is?
No.
They're at all airports.
Oh.
Think about it. That is a import of human bodies into the country. It doesn't matter if people are coming in legally or illegally. ICE is at those places. They're not, maybe they're not there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like maybe they come in for shifts here and there to make sure everything's copacetic. Because you can't tell me TSA is 100% the best last line of defense. You know? I've traveled out of the country and into the country and have seen those people.
Nah, actually, you bring up a good point, something that I didn't necessarily think about. It's those places, airports, um, freight docks, and things like that,
Ports, yeah,
where the ports
anywhere where
where,
where human beings and goods come in and out.
huh?
And they can portray it as, oh my God, what were they doing at this specific airport at this specific time? They're at all airports all the time. It's just, it's not complicated.
What do you think has emboldened people? And I'm going to
Media.
say
I don't even
specifically,
have to think about it. Media, social media,
uh-huh.
and political personnel who are from the top talking down that these things are wrong. What happens is when you have people in high places saying something, everybody below them, everybody who believes in them, everybody who trusts them, take their word at face value. And the problem becomes that people believe it, they feel emboldened, they feel empowered, and then they take the same thing they've heard and regurgitate it over and over again into their little silos of information.
Mm.
And that's not to say anybody's right or wrong. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is we have to ask ourselves, is what we're being told on both sides, is what we're being told the actual truth or some kind of misrepresentation of the truth? The fact of the matter is if you go onto some of the social media platforms for some of these ICE departments in these different places, they have photos and evidence and charges against these people, and they take them. And again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying you can't be against them. What I'm saying is they have proof and evidence, and they tell you what the charges are against these people that they're taking and they're removing. When you have people where they can say, yes, this person has illegally crossed into this country 5 times, they're wanted on this charge and this charge and this charge. How do you justify in your head and in your heart that it's okay for them to continue? Like if they've never served their time, which if they're constantly sending them back over, it's because they're not holding them accountable here. They're sending them home to be held accountable, and that's not happening. If we went to another country, that country would hold us accountable. Then they'd send us home one day and then hope that our country hold us accountable too.
Yep.
We're not doing that. We're just sending them back.
Yep. And I've not had that happen to that scale. I've traveled a lot in a prior life, and I can't tell you maybe 4 or 5 times in different countries where I've been approached and stopped by agents to ask for my papers, which they tell you when you come in, make sure you keep your papers on you. And I'm like, all right, bet, because I'm not trying to be one to get kicked out for doing something stupid when I'm just trying to visit y'all's beautiful country, nations. Right. But I didn't feel offended by that. I understood that, hey, these are y'all laws, these are y'all rules. If I am here visiting your country, I gotta abide by them shits. It is what it is.
Everybody's allowed to retain a form of security and order within their borders. Like I love seeing online that or like seeing some of the pickets that people are carrying, and it's like borders are meaningless, and I'm like,
that's
you're purposefully ignoring the order of the world to suit your need. And again, I'm not saying it feels good. I'm not saying it feels right. I'm saying that it is a very specific need. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. So all of this stuff was formed after 9/11, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are people in this country and in politics who think that this post 9/11 stuff is no longer necessary because nothing like 9/11 has happened since then, right? They want to defund them. They want to take away their power. And
I agree with I don't.
But
I don't agree
but no, totally. I don't either, because what it is it has to happen for them to feel like they're necessary.
Yes.
But if it happens, they'll blame them for failing.
Yes. 100%.
Now, because it hasn't happened, they think they're not necessary. And taking them away would cause it to happen. And so it's the insanity of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because people forget. The American people are incredibly fickle with how they remember the past. People like us, we don't forget that stuff. We don't forget that stuff because it directly affected our lives for the course of about 20 years. You don't forget that. There are people being born now who don't know the world pre 9/11. They don't know what we lost. And they'll blame the government for the things that we did lose. And it's like, it's not, it's, you got to understand the response is justified by the action. And so that's what we're running into. We're running into this position of people don't remember, therefore it doesn't exist.
Yep.
You know,
I have a daughter that is a freshman in college, and it's interesting watching the snowflake responses to people that are talking about how the conditions are on the sidewalk because of snow, which is funny.
You got to stop using the word snowflake and all this stuff, because again, that's just another way to separate you from them.
We're going to come back
to word usage. Word usage is incredibly important in media. It's the separation of us, because they're just us. They're another generation of us. Again, using Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen, all these things to separate us even further, to break us down into these categories so we don't have to agree.
Well, I'm going to finish telling you about these snowflakes,
You go ahead and tell us about them. Yeah, you go ahead.
So my daughter was telling me, she goes, I don't get why people are complaining. Like, yeah, the conditions are bad, but it's not like they're just tragic. So I was like, thank you, Castle. Thank you for not being part of the people that are complaining about bad sidewalks. And then I paused, and in the group thread, because this was me, my lady, my daughter, and her mom, I said the following. Y'all don't come for me for saying this. I said, we need another war to happen because we've made life too comfortable for certain motherfuckers out there. That's my take on it.
And it's funny because that's an incredibly bad thing to feel, not a terrible thing to say. There's that constant, the hard men build soft times build soft men build hard times. That cycle has been proven time and time again.
Yes.
So saying it lines up with how people think and feel, but feeling it like at the same time is incredibly bad for us because we've lived through that. But tragedy is the only thing the American people understand. It's the only thing that cuts through the noise. It cuts through politics. It cuts through everything. And it gets to the core of who we are as people. 9/11 was an important moment in history because it brought the entire country together. It brought other nations to our side where they're like, yo, we got you. We got you, son. We'll go to war with you. We got you. We'll send 10 people, but we got you. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing unites like tragedy. Not even joy, not even happiness, not even the accomplishments of great people. I mean, maybe the moon landing brought the country together for a hot minute, but then you saw for the next 30 years, it was divisive as hell, where it was faked and all this other stuff. So the real question is do we need a war? Or do we need a tragedy? Ooh. And I hate to feel that way. You don't want either. Either is horrible because it costs lives, it costs memories, it costs freedoms, because when wars and tragedies happens, freedoms get shored up. The post 9/11 world experienced that. Airports got locked down, bases got locked down, air defense was deployed all across the country in some places for high value targets. It's the only thing people understand. Like right now, what's happening in Los Angeles is a tragedy.
I just heard about it. I just heard about it.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Now, but two things can be true. Necessary and tragic at the same time can also be true. I'm not saying that's what it is, so people don't come for me. What I'm saying is it can be tragic and part of a necessity simultaneously. It doesn't mean that the rest of the mission is bad. How it's being handled in some cases, perhaps, but it's not in mass. Like, we go back to, remember the Ferguson periods, when these onesies and twosies criminals, which everybody will feel like was this mass endemic of men being shot, but it was like one or two or three people here and there, and the whole country got into an uproar because the media would have you believe it's all over the world, all over the country, all the time, every time. And it's not. There are literally hundreds of thousands of peaceful interactions between police and black males, black females. There's hundreds of thousands of those peaceful interactions. Now, are there too many of those individual interactions, like what's happening in, is it Minneapolis and California? Is that too much? Yes, it's too much, but it's an unfortunate reality of people interfering with lawful action, getting in the way, trying to harm the police, trying to harm the ICE agents. It is a natural circumstance. It's a natural occurrence. It's not good. It's not. It's awful. But if those people would have been in their homes, those people wouldn't have been injured or hurt or killed.
Oh man.
You know,
watch this transition here. You said something earlier that I want to rubber stamp for a future episode. You talked about how misinformation is what's causing people to go out and basically act the ad. And I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. And I heard somebody, and I'm going to have to go find that link to the audio, but it was somebody in like a government type level from a different nation, talked about how we should restrict the rights of certain people to be able to put out misinformation. Like, proper information should be verified, it should be vetted. Of course. That's the only information that needs to go out, because when you put out bad information, it causes people to then react a certain way, and there's a whole ripple effect. Now, watch this transition. So the freedom of speech and peaceful assembly are all part of our Bill of Rights and the thing called the amendments here in the U.S. People talk about these amendments like they are just like it is a foundation, and it is what we are here in the U.S. Now, freedom of speech, peaceful assembly. We're standing on this. There's nothing wrong, because you just said if people were in their house, then these things wouldn't happen. But we do have the right to peaceful assembly. That does not mean coming out here and putting your car in between federal agents and a building. It does mean, in my opinion, that you can follow and observe and not have agents jump out their cars like Gestapo, guns drawn.
Stop using that word. Stop using that word.
Why is that a bad word?
Gestapo is the very specific connotation of World War II and rounding up the Jews and stuff like that. That is not the same thing. They are not targeting a race of people because they're putting all of their faults and blames on them. They don't have a secret police who's going into people's houses and trying to find these people. That's not happening. They're getting criminals. They're apprehending criminals. Again, they are using specific words to get your brain to associate with certain things. Now, are the ICE agents who are jumping out of their cars like assholes and doing something is a different usage of words. Are they doing it like somebody who maybe needs a little bit more training in law enforcement? That's different, you know? It's just one of those things where we have to stop following suit with the word usage that they're doing, because it's purposeful, man. It's so purposeful.
But it's what it seems like, Joe.
It's irresponsible. Well, again, so you got to ask yourself, is it happening in mass, or is the news have you believing it is? Is there so many people saying it's happening that we believe it's happening? prime example, I got a buddy of mine, very conservative. I consider myself a little bit more in the middle. And he was always telling me, oh, there's going to be a civil war because of Antifa. Remember Antifa? Remember that? And now it's gone.
That seems like a lifetime
It was a
ago.
lifetime ago, right? He kept telling me, yo, Antifa's going to destroy this country. They're all over the place. I'm like, hold up. Is it happening where you live? Is this, well, and no. Is it happening where you live? And now the question is it happening in every major city or in small towns or all across the country? And the answer to that question is no, it's not. They have their little court compound in Portland, and that's like it. You know what I mean? That's like it. They'd have these small little people wanting to be like Antifa all over the country, but it wasn't happening in mass. This stuff is happening in two specific places right now. Is it happening in smaller situations in smaller parts of the country? Most likely. And those people in those places are probably like, yeah, get rid of these criminals. But in these big ones where all these people, all these citizen journalists are out there misrepresenting the facts and blowing things out of proportion, it's got people up in arms.
But is it not a stepping stone? Hey, let's experiment with this here. See how we can subjugate the people into just having this happen, and they don't have a choice. And then once we subjugate them here, we've got proof of concept.
But they're not targeting law-abiding citizens. They're not targeting law-abiding citizens. Okay. So the question, and they're also not targeting citizens. The question you have to ask yourself is this the only time this has ever happened in this country, in the history of this country? And I'm not talking about going back to slavery days and stuff like that. I'm talking about, let's say, the last 20 years. This has been happening with every president for the last 20 to 30 years, and probably further back. They have constantly tried to get people who overstay their visas, people who come in illegally, people who are smuggled in, like human trafficking. They try to solve that problem too. This is not new. Every president has done this. Every president, because it is a function of the government. The problem is when amnesty was given during the Obama administration, people felt empowered to come here hoping that they would get an amnesty and just be granted citizenship en masse. And now I don't know that happened en masse, but I know that was something the president put out at that time. And that's got people believing that was one of the things that had people believing like it was okay. It was a thing you could do, you know?
Man, okay, then I've got to stop you here because I'm going to show this. Explain this to me then.
Our friend Christina's birthday, and we were traveling with a bunch of friends to the South Caribbean.
9 days of food, friends, and family. Jose Martinez and his wife, Tamara Barras, tell me it was their first time on a Carnival cruise, exploring new places with the people they love the most.
To Aruba, Curacao, and Dominican Republic, places we've never been before.
All ending abruptly when the couple says 3 armed agents dressed in all black busted into their cabin early Monday morning.
Flashlights in their faces, screaming my name, barking commands, telling me to get up out of bed, put me up against the wall and handcuff me.
Martinez, handcuffed, escorted off the ship.
What's going on? What did I do? Where am I going? What's going to happen to my wife?
Taken to a concrete holding cell in the port of Miami.
Just a steel bench in the back of the room that I sat on waiting for them to verify my identity.
He says that wait went on for 1.5 hours until he was finally released without an apology, told someone with his same name had warrants out for his arrest.
I've never committed a crime, so much as maybe a traffic infraction, a speeding ticket. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm a veteran.
The Coast Guard veteran and his wife returning home to the Valley, but bringing the experience with them.
It was just very disorientating, traumatizing, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
The people who are supposed to keep you safe violated us, and that's a hard thing to live with.
Today, sharing their story with Arizona's family, sending a clear message to the Valley.
it's happening to people all over the country. And I don't care if you're migrant, citizen, veteran. I think I've told everybody it doesn't matter that I was a veteran, that I'm an American citizen. I wouldn't wish this upon anybody.
At this point, they just want.
So
Two
here
very
I am,
important things.
minding my business on a
Yeah.
cruise ship, and I'm sitting here in my room, and there's another version of this story as well, where they talk about how his wife was like naked, and they busted in there, and they had to then get like a female officer to like restrain her while they go in and apprehend this dude because he had the name of somebody else that they were looking for.
Now, you are having a short-term memory now. Remember that you used to run into the problem of mistaken identity a lot.
Yes.
So remember, important fact number one, they had the name of this person. Now, did they fail? Yes, they absolutely failed. They were supposed to, when you travel, you have your passports go through the system. It has facial recognition. They knew they could have looked, they could have done their homework for 5 minutes and determined that he was not that same Martinez. Two, the fact that he's a veteran is irrelevant. Lots of people get arrested for bad identity matching. So they just are throwing that out so that us veterans could be like, oh, not veteran. Look, it was mistaken identity. They didn't put him in prison for 6 weeks. They put him in the jail cell for an hour. Is it traumatic? Does it suck? Yes. Should he sue? Absolutely. Make that money. But the simple fact of the matter is that is an easy problem to have run into. Those people
happen. It shouldn't happen. This guy, all of the paperwork that you have to do to get on the cruise, to immigrate and immigrate, and all of that jazz. And you mean to tell me that this agency is so gung-ho, oh, we got one to add to the numbers board, that you're just going to come after this guy?
It's one guy. It's not happening to 50,000 people in the country. It happened to one guy. You have,
one
again,
guy
is
too many. It shouldn't happen, Joe.
Now, if he got shot, yes, that's one guy too many, but it happens. Now, don't get me wrong. It's bad. It's wrong. They should have done their job better. Abso-freaking-lutely. But is it indicative of a greater problem? No, not necessarily.
Man, one time to experience that is one time
too
many.
Again,
to pull me out. To pull me out.
Yeah.
And
Sue, absolutely.
There isn't anything in that process that could have verified who I was from my room to this damn slab jail cell.
Oh, before they even got there, his identity should have been confirmed. No, I mean,
this is where I think it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, you don't break into somebody's room or house or hotel room without 100% proof and evidence. Warrants would be void immediately. You know what I mean? Which would make the search and seizure and apprehension completely illegal. So yes, he should sue. He should sue. Will mistakes like this happen sometimes? Yes. Is it an unfortunate collateral response? Yes. I'm not saying any of this is okay. I'm not saying any of this is right. What I'm saying is this is not indicative of a greater, like it's happening all over the country constantly. That's why the news cycle only has like this once or twice every. Human error happens. Systems errors happen. I'm not making excuses. This guy should absolutely sue. It's a traumatic, shitty experience. But if they thought they were getting their guy and they busted into a room and somebody was naked, that happens. Haven't you watched movies in the 80s and 90s? There's always somebody naked in the room when the police bust in. No, but like that's a joke. But in all seriousness, it's wrong. They should fix it. Those people should be administratively released from their position or reprimanded and sent to training and sued. They should absolutely be sued. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen because there is such a large population of people who have committed crimes, have crossed illegally, and are allowed to retain residence here. It is a lot. The funniest part is it's not as many people being deported now as there was in previous years by previous administrations. And people could say that's nitpicking the facts, and it's not. It's what's happened. The statistics are there, you know, and it isn't to make excuses. It looks bad when people are apprehended by the police. It looks bad when there's a large police response. But if, for example, some planes flew into the World Trade today, again, people would be like, get them out, get them. They'd be so up in arms to get them out. Mm-hmm. So up in arms. And then the other question you have to ask is, which population of people do you see out there protesting?
That was my next point or next question.
Yeah.
Why is it that lately when we're talking about the First Amendment and peaceful protesting, where did we get the peaceful protesting wrong here? Because what I'm seeing out here are people showing up, throwing eggs, blocking cars and things like that, when peaceful protesting, right, should be you're able to public parks, sidewalks, the easement of places and things like that, but you're not actively interfering with operations and things.
I can tell you exactly where it came from.
You have the floor.
All right. So go back to the civil rights movement, right? A very meaningful and important series of protests happened. And some of them got violent. That is correct. And that was due to desperation, because there wasn't enough movement happening within the country to protect and save and help these people, right? So that looked really bad on the US government. That looked really bad on law enforcement. That looked really bad for all this violent response to these violent protests. In the one course of this history where I think those protests were allowed to be violent, it's during that period of time, because this is, 100 years of pent up desperation and anger and needing to have those same human rights as everybody else. Now, what I think has happened is that people remember those periods of time, know the government was wrong, now think the government is wrong, therefore they should be allowed to also protest the same way. It is the same thing that specific population of people have co-opted other people's struggles for the last 50 years. So they're superimposing what they want with what they've seen work and think that it can happen and work again. Or they've simply forgotten the why it got so violent in that period of time. When you look at the demographics, you have to see what you see when you see the cameras. It's the population of people who are directly affected, and they're primarily being peaceful. And then you have the other people who are co-opting their struggle and then being violent. And it can happen on all sides of the table. It really can. We've seen it. But it's almost always this very specific population of people co-opting other people's struggles.
What's that specific population, Joe? On three.
I don't like to separate
white people.
Yeah.
I'll say it, Joe.
I don't like to separate us into pockets, I don't like to separate us from each other, because we ultimately, that's the reason why we don't have conversations and things turn violent. They've got us so separated and so apart that we feel alone in our struggles. And when we feel alone in our struggles, we get desperate and we get angry. And then you find other angry people. And then you form what's happening. That's not to say any of it's wrong. If it's violent, it's wrong. It's illegal, technically. If anybody was going to be allowed to be angry and violent right now, I'd say it's the Hispanic community out there. But they're not. They're not. They're mostly being peaceful. It's mostly other people going in, which also calls into question, are they agitators? Are they paid agitators, which has become a thing? And the second thing is peaceful protest freedom of speech are two things that work together, but don't guarantee 100% freedom of both.
Mm.
And the other thing is to interfere with lawful procedure is going to get you hemmed up. Either you're going to get arrested, you might get a club to the head. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but none of those things would happen if you were peacefully protesting in a picket line or behind something. The thing is they feel like because it's not doing what they want, they have to get violent. It's a what I want, and I'm not getting what I want. Therefore, I should be allowed to throw a tantrum. And if people started using those words instead of saying, oh, these law-abiding citizens, these wonderful paragons of human rights, but they're not. They're breaking laws. And we've softened, like we said earlier, we've softened the thoughts of what it means to be a criminal in this country to the point where, remember when those people were having mugshots and they were like, oh, they're gorgeous. Let them out. They're gorgeous. Let them go be a model. It's like, you got to stop doing that. These people committed crimes. They belong in jail.
Mm-hmm.
If it happened to me, I'd be in jail. Nobody would come to my rescue.
Same here. I don't have that pretty of a face.
Yeah.
He said, oh, let him out.
But two things
I'll
would
give
happen.
him a place to stay.
Two things would happen. They'd be like, oh, he's a veteran. Oh, he shouldn't be in jail. He's a veteran. No, veterans commit crimes and they go to jail. Soldiers, sailors, Air Force, they commit crimes, they go to jail. There's no, oh, I feel bad for him. Let's let him off with a slap on the wrist. That doesn't happen. That's not the real world. The problem is this fictional thing that they've created on social media has created a world that doesn't exist. A world that's not reality. Like, you know what I mean? It's like a virtual existence within this digital space, and people have rewired their thinking. That's what social media has done. And media takes full advantage of it. Like, I hate the term fake news. I do, but fake news is real. Fake news is real. People create fake news. I'm not saying the media outlets do, but they certainly misrepresent the facts, which now calls into question the First Amendment. Are they allowed to just do that forever? At what point does it cause enough repercussions and enough problems that we come in and they fix it? You know?
Man.
It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
My producer said that Thomas Jefferson had suggested once to James Madison that free speech should not cover false facts affecting injuriously the life, liberty, property, or reputation of others.
Sedition is still illegal. So, I mean, it's still one of those things where there's a thin line between freedom of speech and saying things that are going to get people hurt. And for example, the news media outlets and politicians in certain places calling on these people to act, at what point is it guilty of inciting violence? Because they tried to say the same thing about the president with the January 6 riots. So so you're saying that was wrong, but what you're doing is not wrong. I'm not saying he did or didn't. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if
I'm saying he did.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't consider that, because again, if you're calling for protests, you're calling for peaceful protests. So saying he incited the riots that stormed the Capitol is absurd. Nobody would say those words out loud, and he didn't say to be violent. If somebody could quote that somewhere, say storm the Capitol and tear up the Pelosi's desk and all this other stuff. If people could show that actually happened, he would be in jail. But he's not, because he didn't say that. And some of these people telling them to interfere with ICE is directly telling them to violate the law, because you're interfering with the police investigation, a federal investigation. So yeah, They're going to hem you up. They're going to put you in cuffs, and they're going to take you away. And then then the news is going to write an article about how you were wrongfully detained, but you weren't wrongfully detained. You were detained because you did something stupid. But then they're going to have character statements about how amazing you were and how peaceful you were. And you never protested before. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you were doing the right thing, because everybody loves those stories. You know, the Good Samaritan. But that's not what's happening. It's misrepresentation of the facts. So fake news. I hate to say it. Ugh, I hate that word. I hate it. But it is what it is.
Man, all right.
And again, I'm not saying any of these things are right or wrong. That's up for everybody else to interpret. I'm stating what it is. And then you and the viewers can decide whether they think it's right or wrong, whether they believe or don't believe, whether peaceful protest is what's happening or it's not. But if you look at the footage, undoctored, uncut, and honest, I'd argue that nobody is honest anymore. Honesty has gone out the window, especially in the news and the media and social media.
Well, it's even still interesting, right? And we could get on this last topic and then wrap. When we look at what happened to Alex Peretti in Minneapolis, Minnesota, you can talk to 5 different people and show them the same footage, and you're going to have people see different things that had occurred during that event. Now, I'm going to say this. What I think happened was tragic. I think that he did not deserve to lose his life. But I'd also question why he did what he did. Like King Smith, if I'm looking at somebody that ICE is beating up on, right? I'm not going to put myself in between that lady and those agents, because I understand consequences. Now, what's your take on what happened to Alex Peretti, and what are we missing? What are we, meaning the people, not thinking about?
So 2 things can be true. It can be a bad shoot. Lots of things could be true simultaneously. It could be a bad shoot, and it could also be a justified response. I'm not saying the shooting and killing was a justified response. The trying to separate him, get him away, and apprehend him for interfering is a justified response. The shooting of him and killing him was probably, maybe, an over response, a bad shoot. And I believe it was a bad shoot. But also, had he been peacefully protesting behind a picket line, not interfering with first off, the lady too, and if those people had not been interfering with the police investigation and an apprehension of a criminal, they would not be in the position for this to happen. The last few shootings are people putting themselves in the position for it to happen. Not that it should happen, not that it shouldn't happen, that they put themselves in a position for it to happen. What's the one thing I always say you'll never find me dying on? Mount Everest. You will never find me falling out of a plane and dying because I didn't have a parachute or it didn't open. That'll never happen. You'll never see me in one of those positions. It'll never happen. You know where I won't get shot is in a peaceful protest around law enforcement activities. Growing up in New York City, I once witnessed a sting operation where there was an auto body shop that had been running drugs or guns or something. Mm-hmm. And I was walking towards my friend's house because everything is on your feet. And I walked by a car and it was empty. It was empty, mind. But I walked by a car and I had this constant, like, you constantly look over your shoulder. You constantly look in cars to see if people are there. You're constantly on edge. Like, when you live in the ghetto, when you live in the projects, it's constant on edge. And I walked by a car and I was like, walkie-talkie, laptop. This is a police car, an unmarked police car. And then I was sitting by my friend's house waiting for them to come outside. And I was like, That is also a police car over there and over there. But they're all unmarked. I'm going to go over here. And what happened 5 minutes later? Sting operation.
Mm,
And they just charge and bum rush this place. And do you know where I was?
not near there.
Not near there. Not anywhere near the line of sight of where a bullet could catch my ass. You know what I mean? Like I'm behind a building on the other side of the street. But you saw it happening. You just walk away.
Get out the blind.
Get out, because I'm not getting caught up. And I'm a teenager who doesn't know his ass from his elbows. And I still knew my survival instincts.
Them spider
knew.
senses.
Your tinglies. You got your tinglies and you're like, this is not where I want to be. It served me well in war. It served me well in my entire life. It served me well to know when a situation is going south. Not having survival instincts enough to know that you shouldn't get involved in something violent. It's one thing if you're breaking up a street fight, right? Somebody beating on somebody, but how many times has that gone south?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm not saying to don't be a good Samaritan. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they're police. This is not the civil rights movement. This is a bunch of people unhappy with the situation that has nothing to do with them. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean you can't be upset. It doesn't mean you can't do something. But don't do something that's going to get you shot and killed. Because there are a lot of trigger-happy people in this country. We've dehumanized so many people, including this population. But when it's a criminal and criminals need to be apprehended and removed from the situation, don't get in the way of that. But because these people don't know, they're just, this is because they've been told by the news media that it's illegal and they don't have warrants. And there's no way Susie Chaplin or where, I don't know anybody's fucking media names because I don't watch any of the news anymore. You can't tell me they know whether these people have warrants or not. You can't tell me that they know whether they have warrants or not. So, I don't know, man.
Okay. Well, hey, this has been another interesting episode of the Just Joking podcast. For those of y'all out there that tuned in and listened, put y'all's thoughts in the comment section. But what we are going to ask is that if you do, give it some type of critical thought, right? That's
You're allowed
all
to feel
that
how
we're
you feel.
asking. You are allowed to feel how you feel. That is 100%. We do ask that just try not to shoot from the hip, right? Really think about what you're saying and why you're saying what you're saying. Let your voice be heard. Joe, do you have anything else to close us out with?
The same, like kind of leaning, what you're saying is when you think about how you feel about these people, a lot of the news and them are going to say to you, what if it was your child? What if it was your son or your daughter? And the thing you got to remember when they say that is they immediately get you to ignore the fact that if it was your son or your daughter and they committed a crime, you would want them to be safe. So you'd probably take them to the police precinct and say, hey, my kid did this. Please don't shoot them while apprehending them. Here's my kid. Let them be safe. Because that's what a real law-abiding citizen would do. Now, does that sound like something everyone would do all the time, every time? Probably
not.
But when they try to humanize criminals, that's a problem. When they're humanizing people who are wrongfully arrested, that's when you're allowed to be like, yes. But there's no way the news knows that initially. There's no way you know that initially. And it's always okay to be upset when somebody loses their life. It's not okay to try to burn the place down because you're mad about it. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, y'all, thanks for watching. Thanks for viewing. Let your voice be heard in the comment section and stay tuned for more of the Just Joking podcast. We're out.